Okay, so now that we've finished our notes covering the monochromatic value and neutral colors, we're going to finish up our color theory watercolor assignment. So far we've done our complementary, we've done our analogous, so it's time to do our monochromatic one. So I am gonna get started here, taking my color palette, and for my monochromatic set, I'm gonna make it kind of weird. I'm gonna go with green, I think. So I'm going to drop a couple little droplets of water. Again, I'm using my medium-sized brush, getting some water, squeezing it, and letting it soak in. I've already checked my palette to make sure that it's clean and ready to go. So if you haven't checked your palette, make sure that we clean it up, because we know that if we don't clean up our watercolor right away, it can contaminate it and then ruin our watercolors. I'm also going to start my little droplet up at the top, because this is where I'm going to do my mixing. So with monochromatic, we've learned that it means one color. So I need to work on figuring out how to make different tints and shades of my green so that I have different values covering my entire pair that I have down here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to start with my darker colors first, and then I'm going to work towards my lighter colors. You can choose whichever direction you want to work with it. I know some artists like to work with something super light and then make things darker. That could also be a really good strategy. Either way, it's totally up to you. So I'm just kind of adding in some pigment here. Okay, and then I'm going to clean out, and I'm going to switch to my smaller brush. Not my shorter, my smaller brush. And I'm just going to pull up some of that green pigment, and getting in real close here. Let's start our coloring, or painting, I should say. And so I'm going to very carefully apply the darker color underneath. And then I'm going to maybe make my seed pretty dark. Okay. And now I'm going to switch gears, and I am actually going to work on the lighter sections, just in case if my water kind of takes over that seed, then I can go back and make it a little bit darker again. So notice I barely picked up any green pigment for this, because I know that that green that's sitting on that seed is going to try and bleed out. And if you want a nice flat wash, then you just gotta pull your brush all the way through, kind of like a stroke. And then I'm gonna go through and just make some really dark spots. So my seed, as you saw, got really, really light really fast. So I'm gonna darken it back up again. And I'm gonna kind of keep an eye on how it's bleeding out, so I can soak up some of that extra right around the edge if I use a little bit of water on my paintbrush, just like so. Fill in the top piece here. Now I'm gonna grab just kind of the straight up color again, make my stem really dark. So I'm only using one color, I'm not switching colors. I have to try and create the look of shadows and highlights just by using one color. If you notice you have too much water, you might have to just wait a minute to let it dry before you start, or you could take your paper towel and kind of pat it. I kind of like that this is a little bit lighter, but I'm going to maybe darken up just around the ridge here. Just trying to give that idea that there's some shade here. And if I thought it got too dark, which I think it did in some areas, I could take just more water, just kind of lightly blend that back out. Okay. As we saw, my seed got a little light again, so I'll just wait a minute and then I'll cover that one again. can also go through with my big brush if I wanted. You guys will be able to see it's going to soak up that water, make it lighter. This is kind of the unique way to use just another paintbrush, kind of almost like an eraser. And just soaking up the extra water. Okay, I kind of want to make this bottom piece just a little bit darker as well, so I'm going to come back through. It's really, really dark pigment, not a lot of water, almost kind of like a dry brush, and add in that nice shadow again. Okay, and that covers my monochromatic example. If we scooch back out here, we can see I should have it totally complete with the correct accurate colors. So I should have a complementary example, I should have an analogous example, and a monochromatic. You do not need to use the same colors that I used. You don't need to use the same fruits as I used. And you should maybe make yours different. And then once you have that complete, we're gonna put it off to the side. You guys will turn it in to me tomorrow when it's dry. And then we know in order to clean up, we're going to pop our little tray out. Okay, we'll take this to the sink, wash it totally clean, put the tray back in, leave the tray open. Make sure that you've washed out and rinsed out your brushes just with regular old water, and then you can leave them nice and neat on your desk. 2 new fresh paper towels and a clean water cup. It should sit on your desk looking just like so.